Hey folks, do you want to know how driving suspensions work in license suspensions as well as restricted operators licenses work in Virginia DUI cases? Well, watch this video and we'll explain how it works. Hey folks, James Abrinio coming to you from Abrinio Law, your Northern Virginia personal injury and criminal defense law firm. In this video, we're going to talk about Virginia DUI cases and particularly license suspensions as well as restricted operators licenses. And before we begin, up here on the screen, we've got my information right here. So if you need to reach out, feel free to check us out, www.abriniolaw.com. My phone number and email address is there. And also got the little button I'm trying to remind people, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. What we're trying to do is create useful content, trying to get as many subscribers as possible so we can have the biggest impact as possible. So in this video, again, we're going to talk about license suspensions in Virginia DUI cases as well as restricted operators licenses. And it's an important question when people are charged with DUIs here in Virginia. A big question they're going to have for me is, James, what happens to my operator's license? What happens to my ability to be able to drive, and what am I required to do? So just to begin, under Virginia Code Section 8.2-271, that is going to be the code section that requires that if you're convicted of a DUI here in Virginia, your license is going to be suspended for a year. That means that the mere fact of having a first DUI conviction, that essentially triggers DMV, that suspension will happen. Now the question is going to be, well, James, how do I drive? Under Virginia law, as it stands here in October of 2022, there's really going to be two options for you to petition the court, because you're going to have the option to petition the court for what we call a restricted operator's license. So there's two options, and it all relates to ignition interlock. And what an ignition interlock is, in order to drive after Virginia DUI, you essentially have to get this machine installed on your car, a car that you own, that allows you to essentially test your blood alcohol level before the car will engage. So if you've seen the movies or if you've seen on TV, somebody gets into the car, they essentially have to blow into a machine that will register your blood alcohol level. And assuming that it's a zero level, I think there might be a little bit of room for error. It will not engage, but if it does, it will allow the car to engage if it doesn't detect alcohol. But if it does detect alcohol, not only will it not engage, it will then report that positive blow to essentially a Virginia Alcohol Safety Action Program, or VASAP, which is going to be not only your educational portion of your DUI, but essentially your de facto probation. Now, again, there's going to be two options. One is, if you want to drive for any purpose whatsoever, the statute allows that you essentially, and this is Virginia Code 18.2-270.1, that allows you to have ignition interlock on for your entire year, and you can drive for whatever purpose you want to whatsoever, so long as you don't, the device does not detect alcohol, you're good to go. Now, there's also another option, that if you just want the restricted operator's license on for 6 months, and then you can petition the court, it will allow you to then get the restricted operator's license off after 6 months. Now, the caveat there is you can only drive for limited purposes. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to share my screen where I've essentially put up here our website, and this is our DUI page, and this is the article we wrote about restricted operators licenses and license suspensions. But if you scroll down, section 8.2-271.1, this is going to list out, and if you click on this on our website, you can actually go to the statute and it lists it out. But we've done a good job, I think, of listing it out to make it easier to read. That gives you the ability that you're able to drive if you're doing the 6-month restricted operator's license, or the ignition interlock option. So if you're going to do that route, you can drive for work, to and from, for alcohol classes, essentially during work hours, essentially, if you need to drive for work purposes, but you have to make sure that you are able to prove that in case you're pulled over for driving, and then they realize that you have a restricted license, you have to be able to establish that you're driving for work purposes. So that means either carrying a work calendar or an email or some type of written confirmation from your employer to and from school with written verification for health purposes, either for yourself or for people that you're caring for transportation of children, for court order visitation, for evaluations, court ordered for court appearances, and other various things. As you can see, there's also the ability to drive for worship, and I'm sure that I have that in here. Yes, for places of worship and all that. But again, you're going to have to be able to verify that you can that you're driving for those purposes. And if the court grants you the petition for a restricted license with ignition interlock on for only 6 months, again, you're going to have to make sure that you comply with these driving restrictions. And by the way, if you're on my website, you can also scroll down here and you can learn more about ignition interlocks. We've provided useful information in a direct, as well as where you can get them, what companies to use and all that. So I highly recommend you visit our website if you've got a DUI charge. We've written a lot of articles about Virginia DUIs. So hopefully that's useful to understand your options. Now, the biggest question I get once I tell people, look, you're probably going to have two options, either using the ignition interlock for the entire year and driving for whatever purpose you would like, or for the limited purposes, but you can try to get your ignition interlock after 6 months. People always ask me, which option should I go with? What's safer? And I always tell people, look, this is going to be a very personal choice for you. Either way you go, there's going to be risks. Now, if you go with the ignition interlock on for the entire year, of course, there's always an opportunity for you to test positive for alcohol for a longer period of time. So if you have a slip up and you get in the car, that's going to be reported to probation, and you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have an ASAP violation. And so that can be a huge issue. Now, on the flip side, if you're driving for limited purposes and have the ignition interlock on for only 6 months, assuming the court grants that permission, you can screw up that way. You think you can get away with driving McDonald's for a hamburger, or you think you got to just run to get your car fixed, or you think you got to run to a sports event and you think no one's going to catch you, and then you get caught driving outside your restrictions, and all of a sudden now you got a driving on suspended license as well as an ASAP violation. So I can't tell you what to do. All I can tell you, if it was me personally, I would probably go the route that allows me to drive for whatever purpose and have the ignition interlock on for the year. I know that people are concerned. I've heard concerns about false positives when it comes to ignition interlock. Also, the embarrassment of having, if you happen to have somebody in your vehicle, or if people see you driving, seeing that device. Yes, those are all possible, and yes, it's embarrassing, but we're talking about, in my view, the biggest concern is risk of violating your ASAP rules and your DUI rules once that conviction happens. So that's me personally, but ultimately you're going to have to make that decision on your own. So hopefully this provides some information about Virginia DUIs, but and specifically restricted operators license and license suspensions, especially for our first DUI here in Virginia. So if you have other questions, again, here's the information for me, my contact information, our website. Also, again, I really highly recommend people to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm trying to poke the button over here myself. But what we are trying to do is provide updated information about Virginia, both criminal law, personal injury law. I've also got a podcast where we talk with interesting people. And also, I'm just going to bring my website back up on here because I constantly am encouraging people to use this website because we've tried to do a good job of making it useful. So let's see, boom. If you go to the main page on our website, in addition to seeing my fancy face, what you're going to see up here, you can learn about us as a firm, but you can also search out practice areas. So if you've got a personal injury case, if you've got a criminal case, what we've done under these sections is provided a lot of useful information, articles, videos, things like that. So if you scroll down for the DUI page, as you can see, we've answered a bunch of questions. We've also got a community resources page that allows you to have resources for certain types of evaluations and classes and things like that. So I can't encourage that enough because we've put a lot of time into it. So hopefully that's useful. Look, if you have any other questions, reach out. We wish you the best and take care.